Hello, my friends. Welcome back to English Launchpoint. Today, we are going to do something different. We are not just learning English for conversation practice. We are going to learn English through history. And not just any history. We are going to explore the rise and expansion of the British Empire. But this is not only a history lesson. It is also a speaking and thinking lesson. Because when you learn English through stories like this, you don't just learn words. You learn how English is used to explain ideas, events, time, and cause and effect. So listen carefully, repeat ideas in your mind, and try to connect meaning as we go. The story of the British Empire begins on a small island, Britain. For many centuries, Britain was not a global power. It was a developing kingdom, influenced by wars, trade, and competition with other European nations like Spain, France, and Portugal. But everything began to change in the late 1500s and early 1600s, when Britain started to look beyond its borders. Ships began to sail across the oceans, searching for new trade routes, new lands, and new opportunities. At that time, European countries believed that power came from land, resources, and control of trade. So they began to establish colonies, territories controlled by a foreign power. This period marked the early formation of what would later become the British Empire. In the 17th century, Britain began establishing colonies in North America and the Caribbean. These colonies were important for trade. They produced sugar, tobacco, cotton, and other valuable goods. But this expansion was not peaceful or simple. It involved conflict, displacement of indigenous populations, and competition with other European powers. At the same time, Britain was also building trading systems across Africa and Asia. Ships carried goods, people, and also participated in the transatlantic slave trade, one of the darkest parts of this history. From a language learning perspective, notice something important here. When we describe history, we use specific patterns. Britain began to, the empire expanded into, this led to, as a result, these are cause and effect structures. And they are very useful in English communication. By the 18th century, Britain had become one of the most powerful nations in the world. It had colonies in North America, the Caribbean, Africa, India, and parts of Southeast Asia. Trade was the main source of wealth. The empire controlled sea routes and built a strong navy to protect its interests. But power always brings competition. Britain often clashed with other empires, especially France and Spain. Wars were fought across continents, not just in Europe. One important moment in this period was the 7 Years' War in the 1700s. This war involved many global territories and helped Britain expand its control significantly, especially in India and North America. However, not all expansion lasted. After the American Revolutionary War, Britain lost its American colonies in 1783. This was a major turning point. Instead of slowing down, Britain shifted its focus. It began expanding more aggressively in Asia and Africa. One of the most important parts of the British Empire was India. In the early stages, Britain did not directly rule India. Instead, a trading company called the East India Company controlled trade and gradually gained political power. Over time, this company became so powerful that it controlled large parts of India. After the rebellion of 1857, the British government took direct control. This period is known as the British Raj. India became known as the jewel in the crown of the British Empire because of its size, population, and economic importance. But this period also involved struggle, resistance, and the desire for independence. In the 19th century, Britain also expanded deeply into Africa. This period is often called the Scramble for Africa, where European powers divided the continent among themselves. Britain controlled large regions including Egypt, Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, and Sudan. These colonies were used for resources such as minerals, agriculture, and strategic military positions. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the British Empire had become the largest empire in history. It was said that the sun never sets on the British Empire. This meant that at any time of day, somewhere in the empire, the sun was shining. Britain had territories across every continent. It controlled trade routes, seas, and major global ports. English also began to spread widely during this time. It became a language of administration, education, law, and trade in many colonies. This is very important for us today as English learners. The global spread of English is directly connected to this historical period. However, no empire lasts forever. In the 20th century, many colonies began to demand independence. People in India, Africa, the Caribbean, and other regions started movements to gain self-rule. After World War I, and especially after World War II, Britain became weaker economically and politically. Maintaining such a large empire became difficult. India gained independence in 1947, which was one of the most significant events in the decline of the empire. Other colonies followed in the decades after. This process is known as decolonization. By the late 20th century, most of the British Empire had ended. Britain no longer controlled large territories across the world. However, its influence did not disappear completely. The English language remained. Political systems, legal systems, and educational structures in many countries still carry British influence. Today, English is a global language spoken by millions. Now let's bring this back to you. Why are we learning history in English? Because language is not just vocabulary. Language is structure, rhythm, and thinking. Repeat these patterns the British Empire expanded into. This led to, as a result, over time, things changed. Now make your own sentence that I am learning English through history. I am improving step by step. Keep going. Every sentence you understand is progress. Most people will watch this video and do nothing, but a few will take action, and those are the ones who become fluent. So here's what I want you to do. Right now, say one sentence out loud using what you learned today. Just one. I'm improving my English step by step. Don't think too much. Don't worry about mistakes. Just speak, because real progress doesn't come from watching, it comes from doing. And if you're serious about improving your English, subscribe to English Launchpoint. This is where learners become speakers.